secret recipe for that I've experienced personally is building relationships with people across organizations. So not only within my organization, but even going to networking events and getting to know people. And then they just kind of appeared in the office one day and said, "Hey, Cecilia, we're creating a new training specialist role. It's going to report to human resources at head office. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, this is something where I can merge kind of my teaching education with kind of already what I'm knowing and what I've already learned within the company and within property management. And I find a lot of people bounce a lot in careers, definitely within companies. I mean, statistically now, a lot of people don't stay in companies for more than 5 years now. I think some universal themes about what you get from university that can be applied to any position or any organization and career is critical thinking skills.
Hi, Cecilia. Thanks for coming for our interview today.
Thanks, Lily, for inviting me. I'm very excited to be here.
Could you start off by telling us who you are?
Yeah, absolutely. So my name is CeciliaMa. Originally born and raised in Vancouver, still in Vancouver right now. I'm currently an HR generalist for Connor Clark and Lund Financial Group. So I've been an HR professional for about 6 years now. It was something that I actually kind of fell into by kind of accident, if you will. Just a little bit of my background. I actually went to the University of British Columbia to study to become a teacher, which I did become. I got a Bachelor of Education from UBC. And then I was going to go into teaching, but unfortunately at the time that I graduated, it was a really bad time to become a teacher. There was like a 2-year strike going on, the hiring freeze and so forth. So because of that, and I wasn't able to do a job, to pay the bills, I just started looking for kind of any general job while doing tutoring and also doing some private schools for, teaching English as a second language for international students. So while I was doing that, I got a job with Concert Properties, which is a local Vancouver real estate development company. So I got a job as a property management assistant, leasing assistant, where you show apartments, you rent apartments, and then quickly they found out that, I was a tremendous asset to the company. They found out I had a background in education, and they were looking into creating a training role for the company because they realized there was a gap for onboarding their employees and no one was really doing training or it wasn't consistent. So they kind of gave me some projects to do within my role. So I went to Victoria, I helped lead stuff and trained their new staff there. All new employees would go through me within BC to get trained. And then they just kind of appeared in the office one day and said, "Hey, Cecilia, we're creating a new training specialist role. It's going to report to human resources at head office. Would you be interested?" And I'm like, yes, oh my gosh, this is something where I can merge kind of my teaching education with kind of already what I'm knowing and what I've already learned within the company and within property management. So there was no interview, there was nothing. And they said, okay, we're going to tell you your start date. And then they came back a month later and said, okay, you're starting in January. And then that's how I got into human resources.
That's super cool. You're really talking about you're not really planning ahead for that. You really fall into that. You said it's an accident.
Yeah, hearing a lot of people's stories nowadays on their path to success, there's no one straightforward path. I think previously, before maybe 30 years ago plus, if you went to university or study something, you got one job, right? Maybe two jobs in your career, and you stayed with a company for a really long period of time, and that was it. I think what the new modern times is doing is we may go to school for one thing, but we may or may not actually take a job or grow a career there. Or we may start a career and realize it's not for us. Or maybe it doesn't have that work-life balance that we want. Or maybe the location isn't somewhere where we decided we actually want to be and actually kind of set up a certain stage in life where we are, right? And I find a lot of people bounce a lot in careers, definitely within companies. I mean, statistically now, a lot of people don't stay in companies for more than 5 years now.
You really talk about this, not only for you, it's about the trend nowadays, really people switching their careers. I'm guessing between those switching careers and doing different things at different stage, there must be something more concrete as a base, like the skills, the knowledge, what do we call maybe transferable skills?
Yes.
What would you say are those skills and knowledge that contribute to your success?
You know what? I think there are very many. And for me, I feel like if it was kind of a secret recipe for that I've experienced personally, it's building relationships with people across organizations. So not only within my organization, but even going to networking events and getting to know people in different areas too. I'll give you an example. So even though I was in property management for a couple of years on concert properties, I suck and develop relationships with the accounting team, right? Because I would touch base every so often and got to know what their role is, and, and what were their priorities. Who were the people up head office I interacted with, like the property managers, right? The senior property managers. What was their business goals? What were their priorities? How about the IT who supports us too, and everyone's
Mm,
goals? What were their priorities? What were their goals? Human resources, marketing and development. And I think the more that you get to understand the business and the more you get to know people and develop relationships, you get to know the business more and get more opportunities presented at your doorsteps, regardless whether you expect them or not. So, for example, that training role that was presented to me, I didn't have to interview for it. I didn't have to apply for it. They
mm,
literally came to my doorstep and said, Cecilia, we're creating this role. Do you want it? That's quite rare, and for me, I think I was only able to position myself for that because I established those relationships beyond just what I would call my bubble, my scope of work. I really tried to understand beyond the scope of my work, the different levels, and get those different relationships. And people saw the work I was doing. They saw I was going above beyond my role. They saw that I wanted to grow within the company. And I think for them, it was like, yeah, of course, if we're going to promote somebody within, we're going to promote this person who has shown that they're willing to go above and beyond their job role and is willing to really understand the company more than just what the role that they are in right now.
mm. Thank you for sharing that. What I'm really hearing is you are connecting with people, then you get more information about different roles, and you also get your work known by other people, knowing Cecilia
Mhm.
is able to do that. Also hearing when the opportunity presents itself, you're ready for it, you're ready to take it on.
Absolutely. And for me, going from the property management department to head office, there's a little bit of a cultural shift, right? It's a little bit different. But one of the things I found made me successful was I already had built some relationships at the head office, right? And I was a subject matter expert at the site level for property management. So when I got to utilize these relationships and was trying to adjust to, now working at head office and what were the different procedures there, what was the culture like?
Mm,
I relied on those relationships and they helped me along the way to explain, what was going on, how was it different, and they gave me a lot of knowledge, and that knowledge again helped build me up to learn more about the business in head office versus at the sites. By combining all those experiences, I was able to, anytime I go to a meeting and there were big decisions being made, I wasn't a key decision maker, but I had influence. So when they asked me for my opinion, I got to speak up, like, hey, wait a second, I heard the accountants do this. If we implement this, wouldn't it affect them? Or hey, I've been hearing this from IT as well too. They're also launching a project at the same time. Would it make sense for us to launch our project at the same time as they are? Or is there a way that we can partner together?
mhm,
Or I understand coming from property management, this is how what their reality looks like, but you're assuming that their job looks like this. That is not due to my experience of what I know for that. Perhaps we should have a conversation with somebody at the sites. So getting to advocate for people, I think leads the business to make better business
mm,
decisions. Because I think a lot of people have always heard like, hey, I don't feel like my managers are the people at head office or higher ups that don't work with me, understand me or my job. And I think the more that you get to advocate for other people, businesses make less mistakes. You get to see as a resource that, oh wow, she actually understands more than just her department. She knows a little bit about everything, and you know what, we want her to join more meetings. And, I was able to position myself at head office quite quickly as somebody who was a great resource, not just for property management anymore, but for human resources, who knew some of the accounting people, who also got to know IT, who also got to know a whole bunch of different departments. And because of that, a lot and building more relationships as time went on. Basically, any committee that was formed at head office, I was always invited to join. Whether it represented my department or not, I was always the person who was like, "Hey, Cecilia, we're joining this new committee. We really want you." And before I knew it, I was just like, I can't remember. I was serving like at least 6 committees at one point in time, which is a lot. But you know what? I think that's recognition showing that, hey, how positive I was able to influence other people's, day-to-day decisions that I got to advocate for them, and how much people trust me to be a resource and continue a resource to make and influence key business decisions, as well as talk to the realities of every day and kind of, represent them to some degree.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. Really, you becoming a resources people recognize. So you're able to advocate for other people. That's also put yourself forward as well. You are a people connector in your role. So if you look back, your university, what that many years give you?
You know, the training position was probably offered to me in part because of my education, my bachelor degree for sure. I think that there's a parallel in between. Obviously, my teaching degree was to teach small children, but I think a lot of kind of the key principles can be applied to adults as well too. And I took also some additional courses on how to teach for adults versus my degree, which is a little more catered to children. I think some universal themes about what you get from university that can be applied to any position or any organization and career is critical thinking skills. Sometimes things present them as that is to question them and look at like, is this information or data really correct? Or this person told me this, but is this the whole story? I think you got to think about the critical thinking skills and go, is there more to it than what I see? And I think, 9 times out of 10, there is. And again, I think that key skills of building relationships and knowing some people in different departments, you can go, hey, hey, Joe, I heard about this data or I heard about this new thing that's coming in. I'm just wondering, how does it impact your job or your department? Or I wonder, why is this decision being made? And then you get to have more of a conversation. And then the more people get to, the more you have a conversation, people get to think a little more deeper and go and kind of just take that second to breathe and go, oh yeah, why did we do this? Or oh yeah, does that really make sense? Or is this really something that makes sense for all, or maybe just for some of us to implement this new policy, a new business practice? And I think that's something that sometimes a lot of people miss because, we all have busy lives, whether as a student, or playing a role in family, like being parents, right? Or, definitely having a full time career. It's really busy. And sometimes we just forget to think about taking that extra second to just go, okay, wait a second. Let me think about this. We sometimes get to be the mode of just let's just do, and not think about
Mhm.
things. We're taking that time to go, wait a second, huh, interesting. Or listening to that gut feeling that seems
Mhm.
like, oh, something seems a little weird. I feel like that also has led to a lot of success too. Critical thinking skills and
Mm.
asking questions. Don't always just accept things as they are. Ask questions because, hey, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's the same, or we actually find out something that could lead to something bigger that might make more sense. I feel like those couple of minutes is well worth it.
Mhm. Thank you for sharing that. The critical thinking skills and ask questions.
Mm-hmm.
There's saying, say, university is not like teaching you to find a job, really teaching you how to think.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And to apply those thinking skills as well too.
Mhm. I'm wondering, other than those you just mentioned, if somebody still in university prepare themselves, get ready for the workplace,
Mhm.
what are the skills you recommend them to really focusing on to build upon to get ready for the next step?
Yeah, I think definitely, besides the critical thinking skills, I think that also involves things like problem solving skills as well too. One of the things I see a lot of new hires go through is if they don't know something, they just go, "Hey, I don't know," and then they just kind of leave it to their manager, right? Or they wait for somebody to tell them what to do. I certainly have seen people succeed is people taking the initiative to go, "Okay, I was presented this task to do or this problem to solve. I don't have all the information. Yes, I can reach out to my manager as a resource, but who else can I also look for a resource? Or let's take the initiative to maybe Google something up. Or maybe I should call a friend who I know is an expert in this area or knows something about this, or maybe someone in my LinkedIn network, whatever that may be. And I find those people who take the initiative to kind of like critical think what the task is, and also you find a solution and not just wait around for somebody to get back to them, has been very successful in launching their careers because they now get to position themselves and show that, hey, you know what? I'm not just a little task doer. I'm not just, hey, you give me this. I kind of, stamp it and here you go. It's not just a transaction anymore. Is, hey, I'm able to process it. I'm able to really learn. I'm taking learning in my own hands. You know, um, I am taking the time to really understand things and, kind of put my own, I guess, if you want flavor, brand, whatever you want to call it, right? And hey, worst comes to worst, maybe I still get it wrong, but I've shown initiative and I've shown that I'm willing to learn and I'm willing to take the time to get to know something or at least explore as well too. And as somebody new in the workplace, we're gonna make mistakes. Even as somebody who's in the career years, and I know I still make mistakes, but learning from those mistakes, um, and not celebrating them, but don't get too hung up on them, and always kind of take the approach of, you know what, I'm always here to learn. I've always got more potential to learn. Not, hey, I've done 6 years, I'm an expert at this. I think that mindset and that approach makes you always want to be a little bit better and learn from other people, and that keeps on you to be more and more successful. Because the time when you said, hey, you know what, I don't need to know this, or I'm already well enough. I don't need to learn from others. I think that's when you close doors on opportunities.
Really keep learning, having that growing mindset to
Mhm.
really go further along and really just problem solving skills, take initiative. Those are the key qualities you just described. You now have worked in HR field for more than 6 years, and I
Yes.
know you have built a lot of experience. Looking back, is there anything you would have done differently or you wish you have known beforehand?
I'm not much one for regrets, so I'm quite happy with how the journey has come, and I feel quite blessed how I was able to, accidentally stumble into training and human resources. I would say one of the things that I've come to realize is, and I think that what the pandemic has also taught us is we need to make sure we always take care of ourselves, whether it's at work or in our personal lives. And if we don't, we get burnout and we don't show up to be our best and we make mistakes. And it's just a very bad, vicious cycle. So I guess my advice would be to, people talk about work-life balance, but what does it really mean? And I would really encourage people starting in their careers to really take into heart, what does work-life balance look like and feel like for you, and what makes sense? Is it the fact that, hey, 5 p.m. cut off, because I gotta go pick up my kids and spend time with them, and I need to build that into my schedule, or is it I need to go get physically active because that's important for me, important for my mental, emotional health being as well as my physical being? Is it I turn off myself on the weekends because I just need to enjoy my family time or my alone time? I think we need to always put some kind of boundaries, but don't make it, seem like, hey, it's not because I'm lazy and don't want to work. It's because I need to invest time to rest up, and make sure that I'm happy and make sure I'm taken care of. Otherwise, I can't show up to work uh, well as well. And it doesn't matter how many hours you put into work sometimes, it's quantity over quality. And for me, I've always believed in the quality. And how do you get that quality? It's by investing time and taking care of yourself. So I think that's been really important.
Really finding the time to self-love, self-compassion.
Yes, absolutely. Sometimes a job and it's just like, you get into and you're like, ugh, this again. I know some successful people says, find something that you love and then it doesn't feel like a job. Sometimes it's a little harder to do than, just saying it out loud. But I think focus, what are the key components of things like you really enjoy about your job? And maybe try to focus on that and make sure whatever your tasks are, there's something in your daily routine, a work weekly routine where you get that joy from your work. For me, I don't really like doing reports, but it's a part of my job, right? I have to, I do it, and it's not something that I like to or look forward to doing it. I just do it. But what is it that gives me joy? It's connecting with people, getting to talk with them. So I make sure I build that human interaction and what gives me joy throughout my workday, so that I feel like my work, it has some meaning to it.
Thank you for sharing that. So before we end our conversation, is there anything you want to share with our audience I have not asked?
One of the things would be to, take on the always constantly learning approach, and that learning is a lifelong process. Then it gives you more opportunities to seek and explore. And, I think it's scary for some people going like, hey, I've had 6 years in HR experience. Should I go into maybe doing something else? Right. And that's scary for some people. But, I think if you're able to make it work, maybe do some volunteer work or talk to some other people, and take a leap, because again, a lot of people accidentally fall into something and it works out for them. I think it's important to do a constant check-in about, hey, what is it that you're doing? Does it make you happy? I'm not saying 24/7 happy. That's not what's realistic. But does it make you happy enough? And if it doesn't, I think that's a great time to really go do that reset and do that kind of self-care and go, okay, why isn't it that I'm happy? And is it time to move on? Maybe to a different career, different organization, maybe something else as well too. But I would say, don't network only when things are going rough and you're looking to explore. I think you should always keep on networking, whether within the organization or external like organization. When you meet people and they talk to you about the job, take a real interest in who they are. And what their career is, and learn about that. When I talk about asking questions, I don't mean just at work. I mean, ask questions about people and who they are. I have people who ask me about, hey, what are my benefits like and what are they like? And for me, it's like, you know what? I don't always like to just provide the answer. I like to ask them questions like, hey, how are you doing? How was that ski trip that you told me that you took last month with your family? And it just becomes more of a conversation. And for me, I don't like doing transactions. I like to focus on the people, because I feel like people are the secret to success for any organization and for anything that there is. And without connections, without relationships, it's hard to make things work. And especially, I think, I guess, again, with the pandemic, is those relationships has helped us carry forward in times like these. And so good times and bad, those relationships are just going to help anchor you throughout the whole entire time of your career.
Thank you so much for all your advice and what you just shared. I couldn't summarize better than what you just said. I wish you a whole year ahead of success.
Thank you, Lily. Thanks for